It's not just about cutting foods out of your diet, it's about what you add in that helps your gut heal. In today's episode, I am going to be talking about the power of gut healing nutrients and how you can make those work for you. Hey everyone, welcome back to Digestible Dialogues. I am Sherry Lip, the founder of Happy Gut for Life, and today I'm going to be talking about some superpowered foods that can help your gut heal, because a lot of the times with this diet, we talk about what we are taking out. But it's not just about the restriction, it's about putting in foods that are going to help that inflammation, ulcerations, and the overall health of your microbiome, because that is the goal. If we are just cutting out foods, we might feel better, but we might not be getting the healing that we need. We need to put in foods that are going to help heal our irritated, inflamed digestive system. So, I have gone through this. I've been doing this for over 25 years. I've been medication free and pretty much symptom free. I have had little ups and downs, and because it's hard to keep that microbiome in balance. When we have inflammation, we want to get that under control. And this is, as always, this is just informational. It's not medical advice. This is not do this instead of take your medication. That is something you work out with your medical providers. I am just talking about, this portion of helping manage our illness and helping manage those symptoms, and then taking all the steps we can take to feel better. So outside of that, it's not medical advice. So, it's just how to help ourselves feel better. So, the first thing I like to concentrate on is anti-inflammatory foods. Now, the reason for this for me is that there can be some microinflammation in our digestive tract that's not really causing symptoms. And we have IBD, Crohn's disease, which is what I have. You might not know it's there. So we want to be managing that. But the other part of this whole concept is that we need a lot of nutrients, and we need enough calories to help our bodies heal. If we're not getting enough calories, then that activates our immune system and puts our body in a compromised state, because now you have your illness, and then you have maybe some starvation. I don't mean literally like you're starving to death, but I mean if you're not getting, if your body is not getting everything it needs, it has to work harder just to run itself, and it's not helping you heal. So, if your body is just fighting to stay alive, it can't really spend a lot of time healing you. So we need to get all those nutrients in there. So I like to concentrate on nutrient dense foods, but then what kind of foods can actually help that healing process? I have found that there are many foods that help reduce inflammation and can help heal some of those ulcerations in there. If you had a colonoscopy, you might know what those look like if your doctor made you look at your results. You want to get rid of those. You want to help those heal so that you can, feel better long term. We're in for the long haul here. Like I said, I've been doing this over 25 years. It's a long time to try to manage this. So that's why it can't just be about restriction, because you can't over restrict foods for a long time. A lot of people, how many people like, oh, I'm doing it 100%. And then they just like, I stopped doing it altogether. So we want to find those healing foods, and we also want the satiation. I've talked about that a lot. So we're going to focus on healing foods today. You can catch some of my other episodes if you want, my thoughts on, why it's important to also be satiated and enjoy your food. But this one is about healing foods. So I'm going to be talking about different types. So I'm going to start with anti-inflammatory foods, like I just said. There are a lot anti-inflammatory foods typically are high in omega-3s. That is a really good inflammation lowerer, for lack of a better word. It can really help keep that under control. So wild-caught salmon is a good option, but obviously we can't eat fish all the time due to contamination in our oceans. So unfortunately, there's those kinds of things to think about too, is the environmental impact of all the foods around us. what's happening to them from external sources. So unfortunately, the oceans are not completely pure and clean, so you don't want to get too much mercury, but having some wild caught salmon can be a very beneficial part of your diet. You can, get fresh salmon from the store. You can get canned salmon too if you get like a very good, high quality brand. Just look around. I use a particular brand. If you'd like to know just which one I'm using, just let me know. And I think that that's a good addition. The other thing I do for omega-3 is that I use grass-fed meat and dairy products. So I know those are more expensive, so I tend to eat less meat. And I want accessibility for everybody. So if you can't afford that, it's not a necessity. It's just one of my sources for higher omega-3s is that I get grass-fed beef is higher in omega-3s as are pasture eggs and grass-fed. I eat grass-fed cheese as much as I can. It's not 100%. We get so hung up on 100% in here. It's not every single time I have cheese, it's grass-fed, but I buy grass-fed cheese, and it's what I have most of the time. Same with meat. I'm not sitting there like, oh, I have to have grass-fed for every meal. Or if I go somewhere else, I don't have it. I'm just saying, for the most part, I have grass-fed. And I get pasture-raised chickens. And there's some other reasons for that. I think that, the factory farm fed meat has a lower quality of food that they're feeding the animals. There's also more antibiotics and there's all kinds of things going on, but they're eating corn and things that we don't eat. And so I prefer grass fed. Now, sometimes it's not 100% grass fed. There's all these things about it, but I find that the meat is higher quality. And so that's what I do for some of my omega-3s because I don't tend to eat a lot of fish either. So, but if you are good about eating salmon and if you can tolerate fish oil, that is something that could be possible too, but talk to your doctor first because sometimes fish oil isn't recommended for people with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. But if you are, your symptoms are already cleared up and your doctor is okay with it, you could try that too. Those can be a good source of omega-3s. Another good source is olive oil. So I use that quite a bit for cooking. I use that much more than coconut oil. I think coconut oil became very popular with the keto and paleo movements, but I actually prefer olive oil for cooking. It has a decent smoke point. You might not want to cook super high heat with it, but I like it for salad dressing and I do saute with it. I find that to be, olive oil is a more healthier fat. So, and it's a source of unsaturated fats. So it is great. It's good. It's also fats can help you feel more full. So it can be more satisfying for your meal to use some olive oil. And so those are good, an anti-inflammatory food. Another thing that I have been using more often, but not too much, is turmeric and ginger. So especially turmeric, you do not want to overdo it. If you overdo turmeric, you can get liver toxicity and you don't want that. So I just put like a half a teaspoon. I've been making a smoothie with it. I have a little video. I will link to where I show my morning smoothie with turmeric and a little ginger. I use some powdered ginger, but fresh is better. I just don't always have that. Those are very, very good anti-inflammatory foods. And of course, ginger is very, very soothing to our gut. Those are very good spices to use. Just don't overdo it. Don't just because something's good doesn't mean more of it is better. So, and then turmeric with black pepper gives you the biggest effect. I don't do that in my smoothie, but I do that with some other foods that I might use turmeric, and it's really good in soup. You can kind of add it. If you don't really like the flavor, it's not too intrusive, but of course, if you're making some like Indian dishes or, other dishes that use turmeric, it's great. You can put pepper. But I find that it has a very soothing effect without the pepper. I have a little bit every day, so I find it very beneficial. And then going back to the grass fed a little bit, I use grass fed milk when I make my yogurt. So I get some good omega-3s that way. Some other gut healing foods I have been adding to my diet that I hadn't as much before is leafy greens. Now I always love lettuce and romaine, but I've added some other some other leafy greens that you cook, like kale. Kale's kind of caught on in a raw form. You can do that. I find it to be it's a little harsh on the system to eat kale raw. Make sure if you are eating it raw, maybe you can massage the leaves. That will soften them up, and then you can dress them ahead of time, and that will also soften them and start to break them down a little bit. Because I just eating raw kale is tough on your system, so I prefer to cook it. I like to make kale chips, but it's good sautéed, and you can mix it with stuff. It's good mixed with, like, if you're doing like a spaghetti squash pasta, or you could mix it. It's good with chili. I've cut it up and put it in chili. So making soups and chilies and stuff is a good way to get vegetables, especially if you're more sensitive because you're going to cook them well. But yeah, then leafy greens. I put spinach in there, and I tried some other, made like a green goddess sauce using a whole bunch of different kinds of greens. So that's how I've been getting more greens. But greens are higher in antioxidants and vitamins and minerals. So they have an anti-inflammatory property. So kind of the gist of this all is that you're going to be getting lots of different foods that have healing effects. You're not going to just like, I'm just eating greens or something like that. That's not what I do. I try to make combinations, and that's getting that variety is also very helpful to your microbiome diversity. There's a lot of things going on when we're picking foods to help us heal. And so those are some big anti-inflammatory foods. Those are kind of the biggest ones that I try to focus on. But there are lots of others. But those are my big ones to focus on because I can make good meals out of them. They're not super starchy, they're not sweet. They're a good balance for my meals. So let's talk about some gut healing foods. That is one of the benefits of bone broth because bone broth is high in minerals and it has collagen, which is can help heal your gut lining, especially when it's been irritated. Now, if you have histamine issues, bone broth might not be the best choice for you. And you can make bone broth if you are on a low FODMAP diet. You can make bone broth with just the bone and carrots, and that makes a very nice broth. And then you can if you can tolerate salt and pepper. I like that you don't have to put the onions in there. Or garlic if you are sensitive to those things. So I know a lot of people with gut issues can be sensitive to those, but you can make bone broth with just the carrots and the bones, and you can get a really good broth that way. So, and to make bone broth, and then I use a filtered water, and then I use salt and pepper. To make a true broth, you need salt, but if you're just making stock, you can have it plain, and then you can season it otherwise. But to make it, you need extra cooking time to really get that everything out of the bone. You can actually add a little apple cider vinegar in there, and that will help extract the properties of the bone that we want for the broth. So in an Instant Pot, you really only need 2 hours under pressure to make a good bone broth, which is why I love using Instant Pot to make broth. If you are doing on the stove, it needs like 24 hours. I don't like to leave stuff cooking for 24 hours, but I think you can use a crock pot. I think when I first started making bone broth, I used a crock pot. So you could look up some crock pot bone broth recipes. But in addition to collagen, there's gut healing amino acids and all those things, like they start to help to heal the gut, and that's what we need. It's kind of like if you find out you have ulcerations in there, it's like, well, you can't just put a lotion, can't put a salve on there. So how do you heal those? And of course, there's medication, but does the medication heal those immediate wounds? Let's say I like to give those nutrients that are the building blocks of our body, and the medication might help, but is it going to be a permanent help? Sometimes medications stop working if you have to do them long term, and so we want to give our gut all the help it can get, but we can't just rub Neosporin inside where there's ulcerations, or any of the like if you had a canker sore. which is kind of what those are like. You can't just put something on there. So we have to, we want to think about foods that are going to help repair that damaged gut. Another one is zinc and vitamin A. So zinc, I hadn't really thought about that one until recently, but zinc supports tissue repair, and we're getting a little bit more back to that in a second because there's some pairings of foods that can kind of help. So, and then vitamin A can help your mucosal surfaces, probably stuff you don't really think about all that, right? So we want to support the help. We got repairing, we got healing, we want to support that gut health. Good ones are for that. Well, the cod liver oil is good. So if that's something you're implementing for omega-3s, that's helping because that's a source of vitamin A. And I'll get back to zinc in just one sec. Egg yolks. Right now, eggs are crazy expensive, but egg yolks are high in vitamin A. And then liver, which I don't actually eat, but if you are one of those people who likes liver or incorporate it into their diet, liver is a good source of vitamin A. So you could, so good for you if you can eat that, but I just have never been able to. Glutamine. Sorry, I said that wrong. L-glutamine is a very important amino acid to gut health healing. It helps strengthen the gut lining and it helps rebuild it. That is one of the things, because you have damaged gut lining and we are trying to rebuild it into a healthy gut lining, and L-glutamine can help do that, and it supports the healing of those ulcerations. So food sources for L-glutamine include, they're actually good ones, perfect for if you're following a CD diet or one of the similar diets, or grain-free: chicken, turkey, beef, pork, wild-caught fish. So all the main proteins of those diets are a good source of L-glutamine. Like I just said, eggs are super expensive right now, but they are a good source of that. And then the grass-fed milk is high in L-glutamine, which is one of the other reasons why I use that to make my yogurt, and the cheeses. For if you are plant-based diet or vegetarian, lentils, chickpeas are not SCD, but chickpeas are if you are somebody who eats chickpeas. A few other kinds of beans, those are not so much as tolerated by everybody, but you got to make your choices that fits your life and your diet and your preferences. So that's the information on those. Also cabbage, spinach, parsley, beets. I hate beets, but I like those other things, so I get it from those. But if you love beets, those are a good source of L-glutamine. And also bone broth is a good choice for glutamine. So bone broth has all kinds of benefits. So if you can tolerate broth, it has a lot of gut healing benefits. And hopefully, if you're not able to tolerate it yet, that you will get to that point where it works for you, because it is. I find it to be super soothing. It's like even when you're just sick with a cold or something, the bone broth helps those mucosal linings. When you're sick, it helps those feel better, helps ease all that irritation. So let's go back to zinc. So zinc-rich foods. So here are some zinc-rich foods that can be beneficial to your gut. Oysters, they have the highest zinc. I can't stand them. I'm giving you lots of foods that I don't like on this, but I want to give you the info in case you like them. But I do love crab. I like lobster. I don't eat it very much, but I do like it. Shrimp. So those seafoods are high in zinc. Also grass-fed beef, another grass-fed one. Lamb. I don't eat lamb, but if you like lamb, that's high in zinc. Poultry, so your chicken, your turkey. And eggs. Again, why do they have to be so expensive? But hopefully those prices will come down. Maybe we'll be watching this in the future and you're like, eggs aren't expensive. I hope so. And then some plant-based sources, pumpkin seeds. Those are good. I like to put those on my salad a little bit. If you're at a point where you can have seeds, those are a great source. Sesame seeds, sunflower seeds. Might not be able to tolerate them now, but maybe in the future you can. And those will, as you're healing, those will help the healing. Cashews, almonds, mushrooms. Mushrooms are kind of iffy for a lot of people too. Who have gut irritation. It's kind of funny, some of these things, they can kind of hurt a little bit, but they also have these healing nutrients in them. So you got to find the ones that work for you. Spinach. Plant-based sources don't absorb as easily as your animal sources. Although that's one point. If you are a vegetarian, you'll have to do some food prep. and maybe consider how your portions of those to get the healing. But unfortunately, if you are a vegetarian, some of these animal sources absorb quicker and easier, especially when your gut is compromised. So if you're plant based, it will be a little more work to do if you want to get all these nutrients. But if you pair zinc with vitamin C, you will actually increase the absorption. So especially if you're plant based, if you're making um, lots of leafy greens and stuff like that, pair them with like lemon juice, which is high in vitamin C. You can get in that will actually help break down those foods and also help the absorption. You can you kind of work. That's what I say. Foods work together to get the maximum benefit. The other thing you want to do to get the maximum benefit of zinc absorption is that you don't pair it with high fiber foods or calcium rich foods. So zinc in your yogurt or your cheese and stuff, you're not going to get as much absorption. The calcium can actually block the absorption. So that's an important thing to know when you're trying to get all these foods. How do they work together, and are they working against each other if you have them at the same time? So think about that when you're with your meal planning. Calcium can block some zinc absorption, so we want to think about that when we're planning our meals, and like what do you want to get and how do you work it all in. So here's some other examples with pairing some foods. So pairing your protein with a healthy fat. Now, this is a really good thing to do. So maybe you had, some salmon and some olive oil together. That's kind of how I like. That's why one of the reasons why I like olive oil with when I'm sautéing meat, or if the salmon, I will drizzle a little on top and air fry it. But this slows the sugar release into the bloodstream, which is easier on your system. It also helps you feel full. So those are a really good thing to pair. Herbs and spices. So like we talked about, turmeric, ginger, and black pepper. That's a very good, strong anti-inflammatory potion combination, I should say. So that's great in soup. You can make a tea. With it, you can get, like my store sells like a combo pack of turmeric and ginger root together, where you would actually freshly grate it yourself, and then you can make like a little stir fry seasoning with it. So that's a good pairing. And the other thing, if you are having sugars can be irritating to the gut, especially when we're very inflamed. So one thing you can do to kind of mitigate that is to pair like your sugary, like honey or dates or something, with protein. So if you're making like a charcuterie, you have your little meat and cheese, and then you can have some dates on there, or a little honey on a, if you make a homemade. So that helps avoid those sugar spikes and helps the absorption. So those are a very good thing to do. So, and then we want to have, so the next topic, prebiotics. So I have a little article I wrote on prebiotics, which has a list of all kinds of prebiotic sources that are SCD friendly. So prebiotics help how our gut manages the probiotic. So you need those to maintain like that healthy microbiome. And so what we want to do is you want prebiotics. Some sources of prebiotics can be onions and garlic, asparagus. There's quite a few others. And then if you're not SCD, plantains are a great source. Another thing for prebiotics is seeds. Seeds are a good source of prebiotics. There's quite a few things out there, and I will post that article so you can get a little more in depth on those. Probiotics. Of course, we have our yogurt, you have other fermented foods, or you could be taking a supplement of probiotics. But you want those to work together to get the most beneficial effect, and have your microbiome keeping it. That helps the balance of it. So reminder, like I said at the beginning, managing our gut health is not just about cutting out all those things. Like we talked about cutting out sugar and cutting out gluten and cutting out grains and cutting out processed foods and cutting out whatever else it is. It's not just about that. It's about finding those foods that will help clear help heal that gut, help heal that gut lining, help heal those ulcerations, help reduce the inflammation that's causing all the problems. That is what that's what we're trying. That's really what we're trying to do. It's more than the cutting. It's not the cutting out is just circumstantial because when you're focusing on these foods and you want to cut out those foods that introduce a negative response in your body, but we need to introduce foods that create the positive effect in your body, positive response, the healing response. And so that's the important part of this. So I wanted to tell you that I am just finalizing my 6-week course. It's a self-study on the 6-week IBD food roadmap where it really dives into all these topics and helps you build your individualized food plan. And I will put the link down there where you can sign up to let know when that becomes available, which is going to be very, very soon. If you're watching this when it's released, it might be out already. And the link will work to sign up if you're watching this much later. But that will be happening very, very quickly now. So then I will be diving into how to start structuring, how to pick foods that are right for, what's going on with you. There's lots of lists of like foods that are, high histamine, low histamine, low FODMAP, foods that, different types of candida and all these kinds of things. So different lists that try to help you pick foods that fit what's going on with you the best, and you can start building that plan. So, sign up for that and I will let you know more about it very, very shortly. So thank you so much for watching. And, just a reminder, this is the long haul. This is the journey. It's not perfection. It's about healing. It's not about restriction. It's about restoration. Remember that always. And I will see you in the next one.